All right, folks, I'm going to give you a quick tutorial on how to use Web Soil Survey. This is a website that you would likely encounter if you do any type of work in land development or water resources. And this is a website that is maintained by the US Department of Agriculture. They are the ones who are responsible for our soil data across the US. So when you go to the main page, you're going to start by clicking here, Start WSS. And if you get that page, you're going to say start a new session, but yours will probably just load here. So Web Soil Survey is a way for us to get spatial information and information on variations in soil property with depth anywhere in the US. So what I'm going to say is you are going to pick a place where you want to investigate soil information. It could be your home. It could be somewhere you think is cool. I'm going to scroll to the middle of Pennsylvania just out of curiosity. You can put in a state and county here if you want to use that to zoom. You could potentially put in an address, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to scroll. So we are linked here on the Zoom. I am going to zoom in this area here, and I can keep zooming until any point. And you want to be fairly zoomed in to the point that you can see roads, rivers, houses. So I don't give you a specific scale that you have to be at, but you want to be fairly zoomed in because that's going to make the other parts easier. The first thing that this program asks you to do is to define an area of interest. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to click on the square AOI, define AOI by rectangle. And I am going to choose the area that I want to investigate. And so it's a click, a hold, and a drag. And if that doesn't work for you, you can always redo that. So if you create your AOI, it's doing its thing here. If you mess this up, you can click clear AOI and you can draw it again. You could also draw a polygon if you prefer. So I'm just going to redraw that just to show you that process. And we've got our AOI. All right, so we have drawn our area of interest, and I'm going to go now to Soil Map. And this is where the information is that I want you to access. So for your AOI, you are going to get a soil map. And what this is showing you is different soil series, different soil types across your area of interest. They all have abbreviations like HSB. If I go over here, that means it's the Hazelton Extremely Stony Sandy Loam that is gently sloping. It tells you what percentage of your area of interest corresponds to each of those soil types. And your goal is to pick the soil type or soil series, excuse me, with the greatest percentage of AOI. So I'm going to click here on my HSB, which has the greatest number, and I want to see what information it provides. The information that I care about is here, the typical profile. So there's tons of information that you can figure out about your soils. It tells you all about the climate, the map unit setting, the map unit composition, and this is important, right? It says, hey, the one that we're telling you it is probably like 80% of the soil, but there's another 20% that we might not have accounted for. Again, soil is incredibly heterogeneous. It tells you about the setting. And here's the stuff that we care about for the purposes of this class. It tells you about the properties. So what I would like you to do is write me a sentence that explains this information, a typical profile. So this one I might say, I only care about the texture. It is a sandy loam from 0 inches all the way down to 56 inches, and around 56 inches, it becomes bedrock. That would be the sentence that I would write for this. And then I ask you, based on that information, to tell me, is it a well-drained soil or a poorly drained soil, and whether it would have high runoff or low runoff potential, or high infiltration or low infiltration potential. If you aren't sure about that information, you're going to want to look back at our lecture about soils that has that information in there. So sandy soils definitely fall in a specific category of that. And the loam, as a reminder, is that mixture of sand, silt, and clay. So there's all sorts of other information here. The other thing I want you to do is to take a screenshot of your soil map. Um, I'm going to just show you some other things because I want you to see them. You don't have to do these things, but the way that we usually get information is using Soil Data Explorer. And there's all sorts of information that we can pull out. And in particular, I often use soil properties and qualities. So if I care about the soil physical properties, there's all sorts of information that I can extract. So if I want to know the percentage clay for my soil, for instance, I'm going to say, tells me, let's go from 0 to 60 inches, view rating. It will tell me what percentage of clay, right? So my rating here, it's saying it's up to 33% clay in some areas, but as low as 8.2% clay. That extremely stony, sandy loam is only 11.4% clay. So there's all sorts of information that we can extract and that you'll learn about in other classes. But in general, Web Soil Survey is something that we will often use as a way to get initial information about soil at a site. Again, it is not the be all end all, and soil is incredibly heterogeneous spatially and with depth. So you would want to verify things in person if you are doing this type of work in the future. All right, have fun extracting some soil data, and I look forward to reading about the soil type in your location of interest.